The lookout thing happened because my wife needed a job and we kept begging for a job while I was on a fire crew in Northeast Oregon. And a lookout opened up. So she got a 90-foot tower on the Snake River. Then 14 years later, I got an accidental call about a fire lookout position now the last 6 years for the Park Service on Desolation Peak, which is a pretty storied lookout, pretty iconic lookout, and very well preserved because it fell into the hands of the Park Service. Yeah, I'm just very lucky to have fallen into that position at this point in life and get to do that for as long as I can hike up that trail, which you know all too well.
Oh, it was wonderful. So I should say we drove up from Seattle and then we got to a place called Marble Mount, which has a big sign at the side of the road that says last services for, I don't know, about 80 miles or something like that. You're going through wilderness after that point. And then we got up to a place where you could get a boat and then you go up the lake and you've already climbed quite high and you get to Ross Lake. And then you get on a boat and you go up the lake for, I would say, a good half hour and at speed. And then you're dropped at the trailhead. And we knew then that there would be someone in the cabin in the lookout, but I had no way of knowing it would be yourself. And that was such a gift, to get there and have a guy who was kind of interested in other people, because I think it would be an excellent spot for somebody who disliked people as much as it is for somebody who actually gets on quite well. Somebody who gets on well on their own company, I think is one of the things you need to be a lookout, isn't it?
When we did lookouts in the 80s, we would see maybe a couple of visitors during a whole season sometimes. And usually they had one question: seen any elk? They were hunters. So they were always that's the only people we saw at lookouts back in the 80s.
I imagine when Gary Schneider was up on Sourdough, he wouldn't have seen many people. Kerouac, when he was there in the 50s, didn't see anyone, did he? He kind of went stir crazy from loneliness as much as anything else.
And he only did 63 days. I put in 70 plus. So.
And you seem fairly compos mentis.
I get people, and I brought a radio so I can listen to, a commercial radio, so I can listen to lots of radio stations, and I bring lots of books, and I've increased the library up there quite a bit. So Jack made a few mistakes in that category of just going stir crazy.
I wonder if you could take us through a kind of day in the life, the average day for what you do.
One really neat aspect of it is the days vary quite a bit. So a saying in the Forest Service used to be, expect the unexpected. Things can go sideways quickly. You're in the wilderness, people can get hurt, lost, fires can start. Most days people would probably consider pretty dull if you don't have books to read, drawing to do in my case, people that happen by for an hour or two and then head back down the trail. I get up quite early, especially early in the season. The sun blasts in your windows quite early. There are no curtains, just seeing 360 around you all the time, but you have a roof over your head.
When I was up there, I had a run-in with a bear in my tent, which was just down the way. And then you very helpfully sent me some mugshots of several bears it could have been, who are your neighborhood bears. Do you see them often? Are they kind of like quite regular?
I see bears every day toward the end of the season. I see them out in the berry fields pretty much every day. Yeah. And I see bears every day here. I could, but they mostly out at night. So I saw one the other day, though, just down the field. It was in an apple tree I don't harvest and went barreling across the field. So that was pretty neat because we don't get to see them in daylight here as much as at the lookout because they're much more wary here, of course.
In general, sort of the work that you do and the cabins themselves and the nature of the forest that's all around you, how do you think that world is changing? And will people like you still be doing this in 20, 30 years' time?
So people have been predicting the demise of lookouts for a long time. And where they still exist, I think the fire organizations are pretty anxious to try to keep them. I don't fear for Desolation being closed anytime soon.